So the Tallahassee, Florida mission, it's huge. So it's the panhandle of Florida, but it also includes parts of Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama. So there were some missionaries who they get called there and they never even serve in Florida, which is kind of cool. And there's actually not a temple in our mission boundaries. The closest one, there was Orlando, and then Fort Lauderdale, I think, is probably a little closer, or the Birmingham, Alabama. But all were out of our bounds. But I think the really unique thing about the FTM, the people there were they're already very familiar with Christ, and they have a lot of faith. Very warm, loving, full-hearted, generous people, which made the missionary work in some ways harder because they had their convictions already, but in some ways it was such a joy to associate with so many faithful people, even if it, was a different faith. That was a really unique experience. And they definitely, food is part of their love language down there. But yeah, it was a joy, and there's a lot of beautiful beaches down there, very different from like South Florida. They're a little bit more quiet and family oriented, which was just beautiful, very enjoyable. So yeah. So I initially, Florida's the sunshine state, so I kind of assumed, oh yeah, like just a light jacket, maybe for the rain. But it definitely does get cold because of that wet climate. The wet cold is so different from the dry cold that I'm used to. It's a lot more, it like goes straight to your bones. So I definitely would recommend not only having like a rain jacket, but having a warm coat. And layers are a really good idea because, again, it's humid. So, when it's cold, you want those layers. And then when it's not, you want to be able to lighten your load. So that's what I'd recommend. Definitely have a full-on winter coat, though. For me, the clouds in the south are absolutely enormous. I've never seen such gorgeous clouds. I know it sounds like a funny thing to say, but for whatever reason, I love the clouds. And for me, it was a representation of the presence of God. For whatever reason, whether I was afraid or just had a wonderful spiritual experience and, felt overwhelmed with the Spirit, every time I would look up at the clouds, I felt so close to my Heavenly Father. And it became a huge theme and comfort for me throughout my mission. And so because of that, the hymn, How Great Thou Art, it became a very sacred hymn to me because it talks about, the beauty of the earth and how all of that reflects and praises to our Heavenly Father. So for me, those big, fluffy clouds will always be sort of a sacred thing in my mind as a representation of God. And I always knew that He was aware of me. He was watching me. So whether it was, a hard day of knocking doors and people not being receptive, I would look up at the clouds and just think, there's no such thing as a wasted effort. Heavenly Father sees me. He knows these people. He has plans for all of us. And it was just a huge comfort and brought me so much peace.